You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Callum and James. How you going, boys?
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad. All right, we're just going to test something really quick live on the air for listeners.
Yeah, nice.
All right. That's our listener base? Just crickets?
Yeah, that's literally our listeners.
So we've been...
We talked about it last week, I think.
talked about it last week, but we've been talking about getting some equipment on board in the studio.
Yeah.
Some soundboards, using our computers more, doing some sort
We got
of
our
more fun
headphones
stuff.
back after
Yeah.
a year or more.
So we've been playing around with some tech, and now we're going to use some more kind of sound effects and other kind of stuff in the show to keep us amused more than the listener.
Well, hopefully, and hopefully it
Yeah.
makes it more fun for the listener, because
Also, just let us know if it just becomes obnoxious and annoying too.
Oh no! Look, I mean, tonight is a test run, so we'll probably be a bit cheeky with just clicking it once in a while. But I think once we have a library of sounds,
You use when it's
we'll
appropriate.
use them when it's appropriate. Like, But I mean, who knows? That it could just be that's the show from now on. Because honestly, something's got to keep us going. Can you give us a... Yes, that's exactly what I was going to ask for. Oh, I mean, that peaked so high. I hope that's not too loud for listeners at home.
Okay.
I'll
I'll lower it down a bit.
Yeah, we'll...
Okay. Because it doesn't sound that too loud to us, but everything gets normalized through the board for us.
Exactly, yeah. Also, last week, I think we talked about when we put our headphones on, and I was just like, my volume's all crazy, and it's the same thing today.
Yeah.
So even though we can hear the sound effect, we can't really tell volume or... So hopefully it's
We'll work it out. Tomorrow when I go back and I listen to it...
Imagine someone listens to this in their headphones at work or something, and they just get their head blown off by Wilhelm scream.
I'll suss it out tomorrow when I'm editing the episode for our podcast version, and I'll see how that exactly is on the headphones.
Yeah. Alan said it was fine.
Alan said
good.
it's fine. Oh, he's listening.
Oh, good. He can be our guinea pig. But he's got his headphones on. That's also different because, like, the podcast... Most people will be listening on their headphones.
Oh, Alan, if you're listening, come in the studio. I bought you your headphones, buddy. You have no excuse.
Well, I don't, if he's still at home, he's not going to make it in time.
Well, you don't know how he drives.
No, he'll make it. He'll make it, I should say.
He's 10 to 15 minutes away from everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
Not that we're condoning irresponsible driving behavior.
Never.
Anyway,
hypothetically,
we're off the rails tonight.
That's right. You're listening to the Tuesday Review.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Have you introduced the show yet?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
It's just another easy breezy cover girl episode today. Another review round table. I'll start things off because these other boys have a lot more to talk about than I do.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple notable movies in the last week. I saw Mindhunters from 2004, which I didn't really like.
Yeah, it's a weird movie because, there's that amazing Mindhunter novel by John Douglas, which they then sort of made into the Netflix TV show, which I think we even mentioned last week, which is about FBI profiling, like, catching serial killers by getting into their headspace and figuring out, who they could be. And then they made this like weird movie sorry, I'm taking your thing, Nathan.
That's
you mentioned it to me before, and I was like, yeah, that is a weird movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but
Is it based on a novel? Is it based on the book by Douglas?
I don't know if...
I don't think it's based on anything specific.
If it is, it's like they
kind of the core concept of profiling.
Yeah, just profiling, and the title with an S on it.
Yeah.
Maybe legal wise, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Because
it's Val Kilmer as an FBI profiler, and they're on this island, and it's like a training exercise. Yeah, for recruits.
So basically, Val Kilmer is like a professor or whatever. He's like the overseer professor of the profiling school at Quantico, I assume.
Yeah.
And he has to lead, or he drops off these students on like a little
like
island
FBI
for
trainees.
training. Yeah, it's like basically there's a serial killer on this island. There's clues.
It's like a fake town.
Yeah, it's an exercise.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
Except it's really weird. So the cast is stacked. First off, Val Kilmer, Christian Slater, Ella Cool J, and Johnny Lee Miller. Sorry, Will Kemp. It's a good cast.
Yeah.
But it feels like the movie was made with very little money in the sense that It's like it's just those isolated cast of characters on this derelict kind of town. It feels like it was done for cheap.
And it's like you don't see anyone else, right?
No.
For like...
No, there's like one shot early on in like a bar, and there's a crowded bar.
Yeah.
And that's the most entertaining part of the film, because they're using their kind of profiler in techniques to like guess things about people.
Yeah.
And then they get to the island and you see no one else. It's kind of like there's not really much interesting about the derelict town, really. And then it's just kind of like they die one by one in sometimes hit or miss ways.
I feel like it was probably just a crappy slasher movie, but with a name sort of cast, and
what a waste of a cast.
Yeah, and it also tricks you by thinking it's like, oh, FBI profilers, this is going to be good, and it's like, oh, it's just a crappy slasher movie.
It was on Netflix, and the Leaving Soon tag was on it, and I saw Christian Slater, Ella Cool J, Val Kilmer. I'm like, I'm in. I'll watch it tonight. Yeah. I'm like, I wish I didn't. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it's just aggressively average.
What's that Stallone? Didn't Stallone do a similar movie around the same time?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think it was just early 2000s, like kind of maybe schlocky.
A little schlocky.
Yeah.
And they used some... Look, it was probably impressive at the time seeing it on the big screen, but they used some CG for some of the kills. And it wasn't...
I have a feeling that, this movie never did that well. Like, it's pretty... it's not a well-known...
It's forgettable.
Yeah, forgettable movie.
I posted this on my letterbox. Follow me on letterbox, NathanB_90. And I just said, for this Clue / whodunit film, you're better off just watching Scream. Because it kind of...
Oh, yeah.
Scream is a much better enjoyable kind of who's
there's
the killer
also... Yeah. There's much better movies from... the late 90s, early 2000s, sort of crime slasher.
The other movie I watched, because it was leaving soon on Netflix last week, was Blue Bayou by, what's his name? Is it Justin Chon? I'm looking this up, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Let's see.
There we go. Nice. See, you should have made it longer. You got to make the crickets longer. Yeah.
Okay. When we're googling something, Justin Chon, he plays the lead actor. He plays the lead character Antonio LeBlanc, and he wrote and directed.
When's it leaving? Because that's been on my list for ages, and I haven't. Maybe I'll watch it tomorrow
if it's still around. I'm not sure, but like it was either the 28th of November or the 15th of December.
Okay.
It was Mindhunter and Blue Bayou were like. One was the 28th of November, one was the 15th of December, but I can't remember which is which.
I'll have a look when I get home. Hopefully it's still there and I'll watch it.
It looks really nice. It was filmed on 16mm, and I think the Netflix version is 4K, and it looked nice.
Okay.
So I have no complaints about the technical kind of proficiency of the movie. It was shot really well. Cinematography is nice. Looks really nice. It's Oscar bait.
Okay.
In a bad way. You can tell that things are written in a way just to ham it up for a specific kind of...
This is a message.
This is a message movie. This is a movie where they wrote it trying to tick all certain boxes. It's very melodramatic. It's very kind of... it has all those kind of elements that you think kind of they wrote this to get an Oscar.
To milk a performance.
To milk a performance, exactly. I do like the... There was controversy when this movie came out because someone alleged it was based off their lives without permission.
Okay.
And because Justin Chon apparently had talked to this individual. But he talked to lots of people about this issue because it's based on a true story. It's essentially about a man who was adopted from Korea. And then he gets arrested as an adult in his 30s, I guess. And then he faces... getting deported because his parents never registered him as a citizen. Like he never went through that process.
I've heard that story many times before.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure it's a common occurrence.
Yeah. And at the end of the movie, they kind of show some real people that have been affected by this issue and kind of where the story was influenced by their actual lives. So I don't agree that it's based on one specific person. It's based on the concept of this thing happens to people.
Yeah.
And it's in that way I do appreciate the movie because it's sending a message like this is not okay. It's through no one's fault of their own that they can get deported from the only country they've ever known. These are people that got adopted from their home countries as babies.
Yeah.
Not adults. They didn't just migrate to another country. And it's kind of about how do you, I guess, keep your family together in that kind of situation. They're the only films I've got for the boys.
Okay.
This week.
Well, Callum, do you want to go?
Okay, so as you know,
Strap yourselves in, boys.
that's it. I exist to serve the stack.
All praise the stack.
That's it.
That doesn't. that didn't make sense.
No.
That was just some dogs out the back of the studio. Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Appropriate.
I'll do better.
You screwed up.
Oh man.
Oh no! Can keep that in mind. I will point to you later when to use that
Yeah.
music
Look, you know
because
what we
I
need?
got something.
We need the.
Oh yeah, write that down.
Yeah, so I've been watching the next entry in my stack was the Friday the 13th 9 movie film collection. So yeah, I've been watching a lot of Jason Voorhees.
Yeah. Wait, can I before you start? I appreciate your commitment to picking movies off your shelf and just sticking to that box set and not.
So we talked about it when I watched the Rocky movies. You can either let it weigh you down or you can embrace it.
Yeah, but I think.
No, but like the good thing about doing it the way I'm doing it is that you can sink into the world and the characters.
100%.
And even like with Rocky, it's different, right? Because you have that very consistent. Tight
That's what I was
going
to say.
Jason, the Friday the 13th movies are a bit looser.
Yeah.
The Chucky movies are a good example of like why you can get great rewards out of doing it that way.
Because like the Chucky movies were so enjoyable that's like I could watch them in
one after another,
and be like, oh, this is fun. But Friday the 13th. That's a slog.
You know what? So the interesting thing about them is that it's almost two different sets in one. So you have the original 4.
Yeah.
And then there's a complete tonal shift.
Because the 4th one was supposed to be the last one. It's called The Final Chapter.
Correct. And then there's like the reboot, I guess, like the first reboot, I should say, the second attempt.
Yeah.
Which is its own arc. So it's like it's like you're watching two different sets.
Yeah.
The first 4 movies are fine. So like it's interesting. So the first 3 movies are artistically like, they're shot really nice. The cinematography is really nice. Especially the original 2 trailblazing movies.
I wouldn't say that, but go on.
No, for the horror scene. That's like the first Friday the 13th is iconic. Like people. But then Jason was invented, of course, invented in quotation marks in the second film. He gets his mask in the third film.
Yeah, but I mean, because originally I'd only seen the first 3 movies. I'd seen all the Hellraiser, seen all the Halloween, seen all the Nightmare on Elm Street, but I'd only seen the 3 Friday the 13th, and to me they were all exactly the same movie.
They are,
and they were all pretty boring, nothing to write home about. And so I sort of gave up on them for years, and it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I went back and watched all of them.
So the problem with the first 3 is, like you said, they're very, very, very paint by the numbers. It's the same story.
I mean, the first
slightly
one,
different characters, but even then, all the characters merge into just
they're
one
just
scared teenager.
faceless, nameless. Yeah, they're red shirts that just get killed off one by one.
Yeah, that's right.
And like,
the kills aren't even that good in the original trilogy.
And even though, like you said, it became an iconic. The first one became an iconic movie, and it became an iconic long-running franchise. It was literally the first one was just made to cash in on the success of Halloween, and it never hit the highs. None of the movies ever hit the highs of Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street or even the first Hellraiser. I mean,
God, it's incapable of it.
Yeah.
They're not good films.
No,
I'm not gonna sit here and tell you or the audience that they're
4 and 6 are the quote unquote best ones.
They're not
and
cinema.
They're not even that good.
So look, I actually found my enjoyment for the franchise escalated from 5 onwards. So 5 to 8, I found to be quite enjoyable because they get a bit sillier with it. So Jason
No, you go on.
Jason himself becomes more of a I guess he becomes like a meta character of himself in a way. So it's like, that they embrace the look, he can't die kind of thing.
Yeah. So from 6 onwards, he becomes like an undead.
He becomes a supernatural force in
6.
Yeah.
Jason lives.
Yeah, because he gets there's like that
Jason 5 is not Jason 5. Friday the 13th 5, A New Beginning is not good.
No, well, it's better than 4.
No way, 4's way better. Are you kidding me?
Is 4 the one where Tommy's in the psychiatric facility?
No, that's 5. That's beginning.
Oh, okay.
That's the bad
So
one.
which happens in 4? They're all
4's the final chapter, the one where Corey Feldman kills Jason at the end.
Oh, yeah.
And Crispin Glover does his iconic dance.
Yes, I know the one.
Yeah. Trust me, 4 and 6 are the quote-unquote best ones, but
look,
none of them are that good.
I liked 5 to 8. So the
5
reason
is not good.
The
6
reason
is good.
Look, the reason I like them is because
Quote-unquote good.
is because the first 3/4, my memory of 4 is a bit hazy. Because honestly, like I said, because I've been watching them back to back,
And they're all pretty much the same movie.
That's correct,
even by
yeah.
the time you get to the 8th one or whatever.
after the original trilogy happens, you start to get interesting scenes coming in. Like it turns
The kills, yeah.
The kills get a bit different.
Yeah.
There's some driving scenes which is absent from most of the originals. Like there's I can't remember. Apologies to listeners because I can't remember which scene is from which film because it all merges into the one awful horror film. Apart from Jason Takes Manhattan, which is distinct because it's completely separate from the others in terms of
Well,
scope
he finally leaves.
location, the camp.
Even though the
Doesn't
first
that-
half of it takes place on a boat,
Yeah, it's just
which
on a,
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's only that really tiny bit at the end.
There's a great driving scene in one of them in a minivan, which is excellent. Excellent. In any other movie, it'd be bad, but in these films, it's good.
Relatively.
You know what I mean? Like this, there's some hilarious kills in the franchise as they kind of get creative with it. I think I linked in our special
The Sleeping Bag.
secret Tuesday review group chat. The sleeping bag kill where he picks up her lady in a sleeping bag and like slams her against the tree.
So this is another problem
which
with
is
the
hilarious.
Friday the 13th movies is
Too much machetes.
Yeah, no, but like they're so iconic and they went for so long, despite none of them really being that good. They were just consistently meh, and people turned out for it for decades.
It's because it's the hockey mask,
and
it's the iconic glue which holds the entire franchise together.
I guess it's just a paint by numbers slasher formula.
You know what
like
you're gonna
people, get. Yeah, people show up. It's like it's like fast food of horror. It's like people go and show up.
100%.
Arguably, the best movies in this franchise is Freddy vs. Jason.
And that's only
I
because-
have problems with that. But anyway,
I'm just rushing.
But look, I want to say...
sorry, you go. I was saying I was going to go off a point of with the sleeping bag kill. I think one of the big problems with the franchise is despite its notoriety of like gore and violence,
It's not that bad.
None of the movies are really that bad.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunately a victim of its own success in the fact that the MPAA, who rates the movies and basically is a censorship organization that forces the studio to cut it down to get a rating to get it released in cinemas, they used it as an example. So every time a Friday the 13th came out, the MPAA was like, no, too violent, cut it. No, too violent, cut it. And eventually the movies get cut down to the point where, despite their infamy as gory movies, they're pretty tame.
Oh, no, they are, yeah.
And not just tame for today's standards, but tame for the time. Even though I guess people at the time didn't care because Jason was still killing people and there's still a bit of blood and nudity.
He's very imposing as well, so it adds that extra
He's a
tension.
great slasher villain. But my problem is like the movies would have been so much better if they were exactly the same, but just released uncut. And it's a shame that like we, except for a couple of examples like later in like Blu-ray releases more recently where they found some unedited footage and they put some back in, but mostly all that footage is lost, and a lot of the kills lack the fun or impact of a horror movie kill, or in some cases the comedy of a horror movie kill, because they had to cut bits out. And the people who made the prosthetics and the makeup and all that and the gore effects put all this work into making something look really gory or cool or funny, and then you watch the movie and it's like they cut away in 1 second, and it's a real detriment to the whole
One of the
franchise.
problems I have with the first, I don't know, 4 movies, I guess, is that they reuse the same kill again and again and again, which is like the under the bed or behind the back knife kill.
Yeah.
And like,
I think because in the first movie when Kevin Bacon gets the arrow through his throat, that was a big deal at the time. That was like an iconic kill. So I guess every movie after that, they were just like, we got to do that again.
Yeah, but I mean, like the under the bed one happens like all the time. And
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just
The arrow,
man,
like when he's on the bed.
like we've seen it. Like do something different.
Yeah.
You know, like anyway.
Yeah.
Shout out to the bag kill. That's hilarious.
Sleeping bag kill.
the
Yeah.
sleeping bag.
Iconic. Oh no, I won't spoil it for you.
Jason Takes Manhattan is like the uniquest one of the lot, and that's not unique.
He finally, after what 8 or so movies, he finally leaves. Which is another problem for me with the franchise is, I guess it's just maybe because they're low budget and they're like, we got to just stay at the Camp Crystal Lake. But I'm just like, who says? Like, he can just go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Takes Manhattan where I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then more than half the movie's on that stupid boat because they didn't have money.
Yeah.
Then they get to New York and it's filmed on like a backlot in Canada. But then there's that one iconic scene where he actually gets to Times Square and actually filmed in Times Square. And I'm like, mwah.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous.
Incredible. Even Scream 6, as much as we love that movie, that didn't even go to real New York and film like on the street. And then even this crappy Jason movie,
but then they waste the location by going to the sewers.
Yeah, and then straight back into the like cheap set, probably back in Canada or whatever.
And the real thing, so I've been watching a lot of Friday the 13th, right?
Sorry, and now I'm just remembering all the bit where he cuts the guy's head off and he's on top of the roof and it falls into the bin.
Yeah,
I'm like, why doesn't every movie have these kind of kills?
He doesn't cut his head off. He punches his head off.
He punches his up. Exactly. Even
it's
better.
Like it's like the boxing. It's like the boxing thing.
Yeah, he's fighting
Show me
him.
what you got. And he's like, wham.
Yeah, he's like, come on. Yeah,
off.
he's like trying to box him. Yeah. See, I'm like, why didn't every movie try to like one up on those kills?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like why? Like, there's a whole bunch of times he'll like crush someone's head. It should explode like a watermelon.
Yeah, but like I said, it's like even if they did that effect, cut.
Yeah.
And so the movies aren't even like worth watching most of the time.
Nah, they're not. It's
and there's
I'm
so
only
many
doing
of
it. Look, if it wasn't on the stack, I wouldn't care. Now, the one thing I have against... So, there's this common thing on the internet, because I did some research while I was watching the movies, is that Jason never kills animals and he never kills children. Now, I want to...
That's, again, just a ratings...
I want to debate the children thing because... Coincidentally, he approaches children many times, but he always gets distracted first.
Yeah. Again, that's...
You know what I mean? We don't know how he'd react.
Also,
I feel like he would definitely kill children. It's just
totally
American movies
crazy.
Won't cross that line most of the time, and the
devil's
MPAA
avocado
won't
here.
let them...
If I remember correctly, in Jason Takes Manhattan, the boat, there's school kids on the boat, yeah?
Teens. He's
yeah,
allowed to kill
count.
teens, but not
He can't
children.
kill children.
Yeah.
Or there is that bit in Jason Lives where there's the kids in the cabin, and there's like a kid reading... I think he's reading No Exit. He's reading John Paul Sartre or something.
Yeah, I know the one. Yeah,
it's hilarious. And then like they're hiding under the bed. That movie's pretty funny.
Yeah. But anyway, I messaged you guys once about it. I'm like, he's a real jerk.
Oh yeah,
because I was watching. I'm like,
you got Mike Myers. He just wants to help everyone.
No, but even Mike Myers.
Michael Myers is just
Mike Myers,
hey, you dropped this little boy. You dropped your pumpkin.
So it's interesting, right? I'm watching this and I'm thinking about the slasher villains. Michael Myers operates under his own personal ethics, whatever they might be, because
he has no ethics. He's a killing machine on 2 legs.
But he doesn't kill everything that moves or everything that is directly in his...
He's not a machine in the fact that he like Jason is like a bulldozer, like just non-stop, a locomotive.
Yeah.
Whereas, Michael like hides and watches and...
Yeah.
There's a
what I mean.
stalker aspect.
That's what I mean. It's like Michael Myers will not... He doesn't indiscriminately murder like
He's
to
an
the same.
opportunist.
I mean, it
but he
depends.
won't-
It depends on the movie as well, because like
I'm not talking about the new ones. I mean like the original.
Yeah, but like the original, but then like the '80s movies where they were just more Friday the 13th esque, where it's just like slasher movie. He just goes around killing and
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking about like the original.
yeah, the original,
interpretation.
yeah.
And then you got like Leatherface, who's like kind of mentally disabled and operates under the will of his family.
Yeah.
But then it's like you got what's his name? Freddy Krueger, who obviously he's a crazy mass murderer.
Yeah.
But he also has
he's
his own plans and motivations that motivate him to do what he wants.
And he's got a personality.
Yeah, and dialogue and
Yeah.
things happen in his life, such as it is.
And they explore his history and stuff.
Whereas with Jason Voorhees, he's just a guy who kills people who come to the lake.
Yeah.
But the hatred for the people who visit the lake is such to the extent that he will track people down and murder everyone in the whole area.
Yeah.
And then I guess just go and sit somewhere.
And I think it's fitting that
so he's a jerk, is my point.
Yeah,
He's a complete douche.
I think it's fitting that like the franchise was so successful is that, and we talked about it I think last week or whenever, maybe when we were talking about Scream a while ago, where he's like one of the quintessential slasher villains because he's literally does nothing but kill. Like there's no other dimension to him. And it gets to the point where in the 6th movie, he literally becomes an undead monster.
Yeah.
And as the movies go on, he becomes more monster-esque.
More monstrous.
And every time he dies at the end of a movie, he gets resurrected like some sort of
Golem.
Frankenstein's monster kind of, coming out of the lake or whatever. And it just becomes the same thing over and over again with this unstoppable force who just happens to wear a hockey mask and carry a machete.
I thought it was really cool. Is it the New Blood where they introduce psychic powers into the franchise?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting
See,
take. So that's what I mean. Like sometimes there are little elements in these films.
But see, the movies are so boring and by the numbers, and then they'll introduce like one cool thing, or there'll be one cool kill, and you're like, oh, why didn't they do the whole movie? And it's just, these movies were just churned out on limited time and budget. But I guess people kept kind of see them, so...
I did one last thing before I wrap it up with Friday the 13th. Memorable shout out to the completely random psycho guy that murders the kid with the axe at the psychiatric hospital in one of the films.
Oh yeah, in the 5th one. Yeah,
that's super violent.
Yeah, that movie's not good.
Yeah. Anyway, what can I say? The problem with these films is like, what can I say that hasn't already been said? And also, they're not that great, so I don't want to talk about them for too long.
No, but also, like we were talking before we turned on the mics, is your Blu-ray set only goes up to Jason Takes Manhattan, right?
Yeah. No, I that, and then it skips to
the 2009 remake. So, like, I was just like, well, you've gotten this far. You have to watch Jason Goes to Hell, even though it's awful. It is unwatchably bad.
And Jason X, which is just
and then
as
Jason
bad.
X, which is also awful, but in a fun sort of early 2000s
Sci-fi,
schlocky sci-fi kind of way. And then you have to watch Freddy vs. Jason because, obviously...
But that's just a great movie.
And well, great, I wouldn't say that. It has its moment. And then I recommend the 2009 movie because it's... after all said and done, it's not bad.
Look, I looked at it and it was like lots of brown muted colors.
Oh,
and
it definitely
I know
has
exactly
that.
what this film
yeah,
is.
yeah, it definitely has that kind of late 2000s, early 2010s kind of look and feel. But considering how,
can I pretend that Jared Padalecki is one of the Winchesters when I'm watching it?
Yeah, do that and make it more fun.
Maybe.
But as I was saying, like you've made it this far, it's a shame to not finish them. So I'd recommend if you get your hands on the rest of them to finish it out because the same thing happened with my sister. Me and my sister were watching all of them, and we got to Jason X, and she's like, "I'm done. I'm not watching anymore." And I said, "You just got one more of the original 10 before you get to Freddy vs. Jason."
One more?
X.
Oh, I thought. Oh, okay,
yeah. And she's like, "No, I'm done." And
That's
I'm like,
"You watch
Jason." Yeah, I'm like, "You watch
cleanser.
Jason Goes to Hell. You sat through that garbage, and you don't want to watch the fun space, stupid one in space. Jason Goes to Space." I'm like, "All right, whatever." So like,
that would have been a better title. Jason Goes to Hell followed up by Jason Goes to Space.
you know what sucks? Oh, I won't spoil it for you.
No, I've seen them all before.
No, Hell. Have you seen Hell?
Yeah, I have. I can't remember.
He doesn't even go to Hell.
I know. Yeah.
Like right at the end, it sucks. I was waiting for this awesome bit where he like gets
He was
sucked into the
demons,
underworld,
yeah.
and those demons. It's just this whole franchise is an exercise in like lost potential. What's the word?
Yeah, lost potential.
Yeah.
Works. Yeah.
Like that.
Not living up to its.
No, it doesn't live up
yeah.
to its potential.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just there's a documentary that goes for like 4 or 5 hours. It's called Camp Crystal Lake Memories. And once you've seen all the movies, like I recommend watching that because it's just like a huge, massive retrospective on all the movies and the whole franchise and all the behind the scenes.
That's cool.
And all like interviews with the cast and crew, and it's awesome. But there was I think it was a journalist or a movie critic, and he said something that stuck with me, is that the movies themselves are the cinematic incarnation of Jason himself, or is it just doesn't die? It just keeps coming.
Well, it's dead now, so...
Yeah, well, now, yeah, exactly. But that's also because cinema has changed, like the movie landscape has changed. And I guess the 2009 movie, although if they did make a sequel to the 2009 movie, I wouldn't be mad, even though it's not that good and I'm not that big a fan of it.
Has to be an A24 movie, and it has to be directed by an indie or a Blumhouse. No, A24 or the Blumhouse.
No, A24.
Yeah, no, Blumhouse would just be. But hang on, I wrote it down. I remember writing it down because we talked about this like a year or more ago. There was that prequel series announced.
Yeah, where did that go?
I think it was just called Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
And then I heard, it's supposed to be coming out on Peacock, and I'm like, that's going to be bad, right? Like, Peacock doesn't have anything really nice, good shows, maybe a couple. But then Brian Fuller was making it, and I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That could be really good. And then Brian Fuller tweeted like 6 months ago or something, like it's a long time ago. He's like, we have the rights to everything. He's like, we can do anything we want. And I'm like, this could be good?
Yeah.
Question mark?
COVID also would have... How long ago was this announced? 6 months
A
ago?
long time ago.
A long time ago.
A year or more.
Could it have been affected by COVID?
And
even
that's
in
the thing, is
pre-production
since then, I don't think I have heard anything. So it's probably fallen through. If it does come out, it probably won't.
One of the projects either handicapped or kind of just lost altogether because of COVID. Wouldn't surprise me.
But I just thought it was interesting because it was like, when you hear Friday the 13th reboot series, you're like, oh. But I'm like, the Chucky series was good, but that's also because that has the
Peacock.
original. Is it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's on Peacock.
Are you sure? Can you look that up?
I know it's on Peacock.
We have Peacock.
Okay.
It's listed on Peacock as a Peacock original.
Yeah.
Huh. I could have sworn there's another logo that comes up at the start
there
from
might
another
be. There might
another
be.
network.
Yeah. Well, NBC? That's Peacock.
That is Peacock, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't inspire confidence except for
No.
a few exceptions, like Chucky.
And Yellowstone.
But that's not Peacock?
Yeah, it is.
I don't watch the Yellowstone, so I can't say. But
Well, I mean, actually, no, that could be a temporary arrangement they've got, but because it's Paramount otherwise.
yeah, that's Paramount.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, but Chucky's different because it has the original creator and it's this long running thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if they could pull this off, could be interesting.
It's not like the original run was sacred material.
Exactly.
Give a visionary.
It's not like the Hellraiser reboot where we're like, they should have done this, they should have done that. It was okay, but
throw it at the wall, see what sticks on.
Yeah,
It'll probably
the awful,
be better than
the awful new Halloween movies or the new Evil Dead Rise where we're like, they should have done this. This was like this, and it's just like
the whole,
new Friday
let's get
13th.
a script and just shoehorn the IP in it.
Yeah, but Friday the 13th...
You might actually get some interesting ideas if you did that with Friday the 13th.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be leaving the lake.
Yeah. Just get it. Just
get Jason in... Evil Dead Rise? Put Jason in an apartment
That would have
complex.
been sick.
That's,
and they probably could have done that on the same budget as all the other dodgy movies.
What do you always say, James?
Send us a check.
Send us a check. We need a cha-ching sound effect.
Yeah,
I'm writing that down.
No, but seriously, like
Cha-ching.
even put him on a carnival cruise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all the things you could do with this maskless, faceless killer who doesn't say anything.
Imagine the schlocky taglines. You thought COVID was bad on a cruise.
Oh no, COVID's not the only thing that
He
will
did
kill
the
you.
bang bang sound.
Oh, nah, that was a good joke.
Don't worry, you're about to do that for me.
all right.
Oh.
Look, we might be back right after this quick break.
We might be back.
We will definitely be back
Okay.
after this quick break. You are back on the Tuesday review. Losing control in the studio a little bit because we're coming up with our own kind of...
Where should Jason go?
Where should Jason go? What kind of
said,
Friday
after
the
the-
13th sequels do we need in our
After
lives?
after the mics were cut off for the outbreak, I said Jason goes to Burning Man.
Yeah.
You know what would happen if he got those?
And then I was like, has there ever been a slasher movie at a music festival before? Because that sounds kind of interesting.
I mean,
and then
he kills to the beats of the music.
Oh no.
no, but then Callum's like, oh yeah, he does.
I don't know. There's so much potential in
Wait, now I'm
kind of
thinking
these horror
there is a
movies
bit in
schlock.
Friday. Oh no, never mind.
We're going to play around with that on the socials, I think. We're going to Photoshop Jason into some iconic locations and be like, would this be a good fit?
Jason at the radio station.
No, thank you.
He doesn't talk, so he's just sitting in front of the mic with headphones on.
Is he
Just nothing.
is he here already?
Oh,
It's the closest we got right now is
Yeah.
the heartbeat. we'll get the...
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like you have such an iconic character, and he spends all his time at the lake.
yeah, but again, it's just like I can see from a filmmaking perspective of them just being lazy and just doing the same thing, but also fans, like if you moved out of the lake, people would probably lose their minds because horror fans can be,
Yeah.
but he could have gone anywhere, and when he finally does in Manhattan, it's like just they don't have the time or the
Jason
money.
on a plane.
Jason, oh, that would have been cool.
Snakes on a plane. Jason on a plane.
But anyway, yeah.
Look, moving on now. James
that's-
also had a
that's-
good
I'm done.
horror film.
Oh, okay. So get ready with the bow, bow, bow.
All right.
Yeah,
So James has failed, or the movie has
yeah.
failed.
I goofed up. So last week, Nathan was talking about some Exorcist-related movies, possession movies, and then Callum was like, "Oh, I watched Serpent and the Rainbow, which has like sort of possession-y voodoo things," and then you're like, "Oh, James, do you have any sort of related movies?"
We could have had the trifecta.
Yeah, and I was like looking through my list, and I had all these horror movies that I watched in Spooktober that I didn't get to talk about. And I was like, oh, I don't know if anyone wants to hear about these. And I'm scrolling through the list, and all I'm seeing is Scream and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I already talked about. Because there's so many movies, and I'm scrolling, and I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like trying to see the ones in between, and I'm like unsure. There were two movies that technically I could have segued into, especially because last week it was like the segue episode that could have been like, I guess it's kind of possession adjacent. So I done goofed up. So you got to give me the...
All right, I'll give you the fail.
Yeah. I'll take the L. So anyway, 1 week later, I thought I would talk about them now. The first one was The Changeling from 1980,
Oh, yeah.
which, not exactly a possession movie, but it's a haunted house movie. And there are, inklings of sort of, there's a really great scene where a...
Dark presence is in
Yeah, there's a dark presence in the house, and there's a really great scene with like a spirit medium, like a fortune teller lady, what do you call them? And she's like channeling the spirit, so that's a really great scene. But yeah, that movie, I got the 4K limited edition box set from Second Sight. It's a UK company who releases nice Blu-rays, which they did the Texas Chainsaw 4K that I talked about a while ago. That movie is so freaking good, and I was thinking, how you're talking about Exorcist Believer, and we're like, oh, it's one of those crappy reboot, cool, whatever. And the original Exorcist is just such a great, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And it got me thinking of like, you know, The Exorcist, which is like early 70s. You got The Omen, which is mid 70s. And then you got The Changeling, which is 1980. They're all scary horror movies, but they're all classy as hell. Like really nice, like...
They're cinema.
Cinema, capital C. Film, capital F. Like just so well made and just like... If this wasn't horror, people would be saying this is the greatest like film of... I mean, people do. I mean, all those movies are well regarded.
But if it wasn't horror, it would be treated like The Godfather.
Yeah, exactly. Just really classy. And I was just thinking, it's like...
Horror's always got an unfair kind of...
100% gets unfair rap. But I think there's different types of horror. And you've got those...
Omen's different to Friday the 13th.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
in terms of presentation.
You got those classy horror movies, but then you got the schlocky and the slashers and whatever. But I was thinking, I'm like, now we don't really have those. We have elevated horror movies. We have A24 horror movies. But I miss those, like, really classy
we don't have those anymore.
And I feel like, you know, when they make Exorcist Believer, and they clearly don't understand why Exorcist works, they're not making classy movie. They're making schlocky, reboot cool, cash grab garbage.
With, like, I guess a fake sheen.
Yeah, this like Hollywood sheen and this grey brown.
It's got that thing where like, look, this movie costs money to make. But it's still no better than the cheap, nasty movies you get on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. It's like we got one name actor or whatever. We're gonna like, I don't know. It's just
because it's the struggles that the characters go through that make the movies so great. You know. It's
but it's also the filmmaking. Yeah, and then if it's filmmaking, like those movies are really well made. And
the lighting's good and
and the performances and like you a lot of horror movies now. But again, like I said, it's like now we have elevated horror and A24 horror, which is the sort of more classy.
The classy movies are elevated horror, and the classy filmmaking now doesn't go to your slashers or you kind of. No,
well, slashers have never been classy. But I'm just saying that you know.
But like now, all that good filmmaking is kind of it's transitioned into being that elevated horror, if you like.
Yeah, the elevated horror, the A24 movies, and like we said, it's like those are no longer big studio blockbusters.
Not even
like,
elevated horror, or your weird horror, like you've got your Midsummer and...
That's A24 horror, though, exactly. So, like, that's, you know, but even then, it's just like The Changeling and The Omen and Exorcist were like big studio movies that came out in the cinema with like name actors. Whereas now it's like Midsummer and, you know, other A24 movies or other elevated horror movies.
They're not, Beau is Afraid isn't coming to your local cinema.
Yeah, pretty much, you know. But that's also a very different movie in its own right. I was just thinking of watching The Changeling. I'm like, oh, this is so good. It's such a good movie. And then I done goofed up again because there's another movie on my list that I watched in Spooktober that has a even more direct possession connection. From Beyond, released in 1986. I got the 4K of this as well. This is a movie I've been meaning to watch for so long, and I just never got around to it. And it was released on 4K by Vinegar Syndrome, I think. One of those boutique labels. And I bought it and watched it for the first time. And it's a really cool kind of gory, kind of effects-driven 80s horror movie based on the story by H.P. Lovecraft. About scientists who sort of use this device to resonate with sound, and they accidentally open up a sort of parallel universe where these creatures come through.
Classic. And
there's this sort of element of like whatever these creatures are, they live in a, you know, not physical universe, so they're kind of ghost phantomy, and then they kind of possess certain characters, and they like take one character and he like starts to turn into this grotesque monster.
Your classic Lovecraftian.
Yeah, but it's this really cool, like low budget, you know, bit schlocky horror movie, but just it's the peak of like what we love of those kind of movies, where just practical effects out the wazoo. Like, just so much cool and just score. And it's got Jeffrey Combs, who's a legend, especially in the genre. It's directed by Stuart Gordon, who's a legend in the genre. Also did Reanimator, which is another classic H.P. Lovecraft 80s gore-heavy special effects, practical effects heavy movie. So yeah, it was just awesome and a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm hoping Reanimator gets a 4K release soon. I feel like it's one of those movies where it's just
hanging fruit for it.
It's still a cult movie, but it's big enough to, it's like, that's a movie that needs.
I've been thinking about this lately. Physical media is in a weird spot because you've got companies like Disney and some of the major labels that are pulling back a bit from physical media in countries like Australia.
No, it's so weird, right? Because I was thinking about this with Umbrella. The Australian
that's
thing.
Probably what I'm getting to. And you've got so many minor or smaller labels just coming out every year.
Yeah.
So like the big
weird.
Yeah, the big studios are kind of pulling away a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we've got like 10 in the last few years, probably got like 10 different smaller boutique Blu-ray labels coming out,
and
all doing God's work.
What's so weird is like you said, you got the big companies like Disney is like no longer releasing physical stuff in Australia, and I'm like, this is just awful. And you've got all these boutique UK and US labels
or
popping,
Australian labels.
But then I'm getting to that, like, popping up. I'm like, that's one thing, because usually all the best physical media comes out in the US and sometimes in Europe and the UK. And then since COVID, which was economically, like, socially everything awful, all these Australian companies who either existed before or are new are popping up, like releasing all these amazing Blu-rays and 4Ks. And it's just like, how did we go from Australia being the dead spot of physical media releasing to COVID almost destroying our economy to all these boutique labels like popping up and releasing all this.
Like Imprint's got their own spin-off label coming out, don't they, as well? It's like an Asian cinema focused.
Yeah.
It's so weird, right? So when a while ago now, we got the John Carpenter 4K releases in Australia. And I bought them and I watched them, and then time goes by, and then I get an email, I guess it was for Americans, and it was like, John Carpenter's 4K is coming out soon, pre-order them. And I'm like, man, I got it right there.
Yeah, I'm so, like, it's so crazy.
Weird? Like, we got some stuff like from our local imprints before it was released in America.
How many times do we complain that a movie comes out in America months before, sometimes a year before it comes out here, if it comes out here at all? And oftentimes it'll come out on Blu-ray or 4K in the US before it's even released at the cinema here, which is insane. And oftentimes we don't even get a physical release at all. Or sometimes, I guess because of our market, we only get a DVD release, which is bizarre. But it is the best feeling where it's like for the first time worldwide on Blu-ray in Australia.
Yeah.
Excuse me, what? Did I die and go to heaven?
Yeah.
You know what? We need the harp sound.
The harp.
I'll write that down.
I have this.
It'll do.
Yeah. This is chill enough. This is what heaven...
This might sound like?
Heaven might sound like this. I just lounge, kind of...
Look, definitely.
You can turn it off.
I didn't realize.
I'm back from heaven. Back down in hell. AKA Earth.
No, but it is just an interesting time because a few years ago we were kind of worried about the state of physical media, and now you look around and we've got all this.
But that's what's crazy is, like you were saying, the big companies are just like scaling it back, or if they do release it, they do the bare minimum where they slap it on a disc and just no special features, nothing.
I mean, if Imprint's doing well enough to have a second version of their own imprint, like a spin-off kind of Asian cinema focused label, obviously they're doing okay.
I will say,
and they sell out every month of their Blu-rays.
Yeah,
you know?
They do.
I will say though that I don't know if we've talked about this before, but you know, being a boutique and a physical media collector, Blu-rays, 4Ks, whatever, it has. Even though now we're getting more than ever and then all these great companies and they're releasing all this cool stuff, and all this kind of bespoke, kind of, cool limited editions with bits and pieces that I love, even though, what I'm going to do with all the cool little things that come with it. Even though that is happening and I love it and it's right up my alley, it is becoming sort of a rich person's hobby.
Oh, 100%.
And it's sort of like vinyl collecting, kind of music for musos, like for music lovers. Like,
I pick and choose very carefully.
Like, because I have an addiction, so I'm like, I spend the money, and it's getting to a point now where I'm like, if you are not, because when DVDs came out, they were expensive at first, but after a while, like, just you could collect DVDs like no tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, they sell DVDs now for like $9.99.
Yeah, and then Blu-rays came out and it's like they were super expensive at first, but then after a while you could start to build up a pretty decent collection.
I think
now with 4Ks and the sort of more boutique labels and even the non-boutique labels, just normal Blu-ray releases, it's just like this is getting out. Prices are getting out of hand.
I know inflation's a thing and the cost of living is very high, but like when a 4K comes out, it's like $40.
Yeah, I mean,
like
for a local release.
We always get the Australia tax where everything here is just inflated to.
But Blu-ray was never that expensive, was it? When they came out and you released it, like
somewhere.
It depends on the movie as well.
Yeah, there were definitely there's still some Blu-rays that will come out, and like I was in JB the other day, and I today even and I was looking around before I got my thing. And there's like Blu-rays that are like recently released for like $38.
I'm not talking anime.
Oh no, and that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Talk about a rich person.
Yeah,
$100 for half of a season.
Half a season, 10 episodes, $100.
Get the hell out of here. But like, it is becoming sort of a rich person's hobby where if you want to collect a lot of this stuff, if you want to have the best version of the film, if you want a limited edition, you're going to have to shell out for it. And especially if you have to import it from America or the UK, which for 99% of things you do.
Look, I think most people should just be buying, because it is such an expensive thing, I would say only buy the collector's editions of movies you really cherish.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just go for the standard 4K
I think
release.
I'm also an exception where it's like, this is my thing. This is my... I'm not saying like... A lot of people are off physical completely and just doing, streaming and stuff. But, that's a whole nother dangerous thing where they're cutting things, removing things. You don't own anything
back in the
anymore.
day, we complained about the 13 reasons why Netflix...
Oh, 100%.
Controversy.
Yeah, all these, Disney Plus...
Disney is 100 examples.
Yeah, Disney Plus is just censoring or removing things wholesale. HBO Max was just deleting stuff for the tax write-off. So, there is an element of safety, but it's also... I've talked about it before. I'm sure we've talked about it on the show many times. It's like, there is that element of pulling it off your shelf and having it in a nice slip cover and pulling it out and and the quality is still the best on disc.
To quote Christopher Nolan, no
streaming
company can steal it away from
you. Exactly. Yeah,
at least he's championing it.
Yeah,
I did my part.
Oh, I got Oppenheimer as well.
Insert Jesus, I'm blanking. Space Troopers? No, what's the
Starship Troopers?
Insert Starship Troopers.
I'm doing my part. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
We need that on the soundboard. Nice. Oh well, that one came in useful at least. Yeah.
Probably the most used sound effect we'll have.
Oh, that'll be on every episode because we screw up so much.
That or crickets when we're googling something.
Crickets, yeah. We'll get a roster of different sounds.
I think we're gonna like having this in the studio.
It's good. It gives more energy and it's like
more
fun.
Color.
Yeah, more color.
We'll
Yeah,
just have to build up a good kind of
especially because if you count the old show, we've been doing this for like 7 years, and
we're trying to grow.
It gets very stale, and I'm always complaining. I'm like, let's do something that's So we'll get.
We need the X-Files intro music or something approximating that.
Yeah, every time we talk about aliens. And we need the Law and Order. Dun dun.
Yeah, the Law.
That's a classic. That's a classic. Yeah.
When we're judging someone. Dun dun.
Yeah.
I reckon that's all the time we've got for tonight, boys.
Yeah.
Thanks
wrap
for
it up.
listening, everyone. Do you hate the soundboard? Let us know.
If you did, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure all the crickets in our audience loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who's listening. No one else is. And Alan was listening, so I guess
Yeah.
I guess we had one listener.
Let us know your thoughts. Where would you like to see Jason next?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason goes to what's that? Emily goes to Paris. Emily
Yeah.
in Paris. Yeah, Jason in Paris.
Jason time travels. He goes back in the past, like caveman times.
Oh yeah.
Jason riding
See,
a dinosaur.
speaking
Jason
of-
riding a dinosaur.
See, speaking of like classy horror movies, there is a place for schlocky horror movies where
yeah.
it's like let's go dumb and let's do
Yeah.
stupid stuff because that sounds awesome.
Jason
Yeah.
goes to the Vatican.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Look,
That would cause a lot of controversy.
I don't care. I will love it. Let's turn off the mic and like make some of these. Don't put them out there because people will steal them.
That's it. There are ideas.
This is our ideas. Copyright.
You know, this is what we'll do. All right. Bark at you.
Set the dogs on you.
Cal, every
Release-
time I use the dog, Cal's like, stop it.
Release the hounds.
He's gonna delete the sound. He's gonna delete that sound effect.
No,
dogs.
no.
We need DMX going. Woo, woo.
All right, look, for real, that's enough, guys. Let's
Yeah,
go. I'm
let's
hungry. Let's
go.
go eat. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page, Instagram page, Twitter page, Threads page, and Newsmast page.
Nice.
And follow us and subscribe. Ring that bell on YouTube.
YouTube, yeah.
We'll be back next week.
Follow us all on Letterboxd.
and Letterboxd.
I'm Channel Drifter.
I'm Nathan B _90.
And I'm Callum Tuesday. One word.
Yeah.
So you can, I guess, follow along and tell us when we're wrong. On
Yeah.
You can watch whatever weird, sad things I'm watching lately.
Yeah. My
Whatever the stack
eclectic,
tells me to watch.
You can see my eclectic day-to-day watching habits.
I only update mine when I watch something, which is less frequently than the rest of the boys, but that's okay.
Yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do. If you haven't watched
Yeah.
something, you're not going to put it in your diary.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.